I'm Jeff Hunt. Bill Thorpe. Lauren Boebert's with us.
Veto time.
This was a wild story over the Christmas break where a bill that was passed unanimously that Lauren Boebert had worked really hard on, the Arkansas Valley Conduit, which is to bring water to parts of particularly southeastern Colorado, was then vetoed by President Trump. And lots of questions around that. And then since it was passed unanimously, there's questions like, well, why don't they just override the veto?
Yeah.
So they went back to Congress, tried to do that. Lauren was working on that. And a number of Republicans seem to have changed their tune a little bit.
Which is weird. The fact that they all thought it was a great idea the first time, and now over Trump veto, then all of a sudden now it's a bad idea. That's interesting.
Wild. We're going to talk with Lauren coming up here in a bit, but now is time for the news.
Blake Olson.
Blake Olson, news and comment.
Hey, good morning, TGIF. 26 with a little snow here and there in the city. Expecting a high of 34 today. News sponsored by Pastor Camp Heating and Air Conditioning at 303-777-1234 to learn more about special savings opportunities on Lennox equipment. Our top story, Jeff and Billy talking about the bad gas a lot of people purchased in the metro area over the past few days and put it in their vehicles this week. Hopefully you're not affected. A mechanic actually called the fellas last hour.
You know, this whole thing is probably causing misfires, check engine lights, stuff like that, but I don't see it destroying a lot of stuff. I see it, maybe drain and fill mostly. But this had to have happened at a switching station or something like that, or somewhere where they filled these tankers. I don't think it's intentional. I think it's just somebody that messed up. That's my opinion on it.
I didn't catch his name. I think his name is Chuck, but once again, we have the greatest callers. Thank you very much for that information. Speaking of fuel, 47 expected to meet with oil executives at the White House today as he tries to spur investment in Venezuela's oil infrastructure. Trump accused Venezuela of stealing American oil when it nationalized its assets years ago. An Indian refining company is expressing interest in buying the Venezuelan oil.
India is the world's third largest consumer of oil, and Reliance Industries' comments come as India is under pressure from the US to move away from imports of oil from Russia. Reliance Industries is the operator of the world's largest refining complex, and analysts say that Venezuelan oil could help India to diversify its energy imports. Reliance stopped its imports of Venezuela's oil in March last year amid an announcement of tariffs on countries buying crude from the country by President Trump. Rebecca Bunton, Mumbai.
VP JD is teed off at the media.
If the media wants to tell the truth, they ought to tell the truth that a group of left-wing radicals have been working tirelessly, sometimes using domestic terror techniques to try to make it impossible for the President of the United States to do what the American people elected him to do, which is enforce our immigration laws. The President stands with ICE. I stand with ICE. We stand with all of our law enforcement officers.
Protests breaking out in Minneapolis and Portland last night after the ICE agent shooting on the woman from Colorado Springs who was trying to kill him with her car. And one last night in Portland as ICE trying to pull over a TDA member. No, we can't have that. VP JD is just tired of the media, of course.
And part of that is recognizing that you people in the media, not everybody in this room, but many people in this room have been lying about this attack. She was trying to ram this guy with her car. He shot back. He defended himself. He's already been seriously wounded in law enforcement operations before, and everybody who's been repeating the lie that this is some innocent woman who was out for a drive in Minneapolis when a law enforcement officer shot at her, you should be ashamed of yourselves.
A Supreme Court decision could come at any time on the legality of 47's global tariffs. The justices heard the case in November and could issue a ruling as early as today. The High Court's ruling could have massive implications for American consumers, businesses, the economy, and presidential authorities. Hey, when Charlie Kirk's head of security, Brian Harpole, he went on Sean Ryan a few months ago, and he talked about how much preparation and detail goes into every event and went into every Charlie Kirk event weeks and months in advance to protect Charlie. Candace Owens says she got a tip from a person here in Colorado that said, curiously, there wasn't a plan for the day after September 11th.
The day after his assassination, Charlie was slated to speak in Woodland Park, Colorado at the Charise Bible College. Okay, so that's in Woodland Park, Colorado. He was slated to speak there. And according to this person, after Charlie got assassinated, there was a bit of a panicked meeting that took place, which was headed by the chief of police. They decided to transform this event into a vigil. And they were panicked because, believe it or not, they had absolutely no security plan in place. They thought, how odd. We don't have a security plan in place. Now we better consider this. And we need to make sure that we have police officer involvement. Why didn't Dan Flood and Brian Harpole and Turning Point USA's security have any coordination with the police departments up in Colorado? If this is what they normally do, and whatever the way he over describes that, and they get the plan, and everybody can access and start to begin to speak, and then we speak to the police. I mean, we do all this stuff,
but it never happened. For September 11th, crickets. College football semifinals, 20 seconds to play. Miami trails Ole Miss 27-24.
Three receivers bunch to the left. Becca's looking that way. And still looking, takes off running, Carson Beck with his legs, puts Miami on top. What a drive.
31-27, what a thriller. Miami moves on. They take on the winner of tonight's game, the Ducks and the Hoosiers, Oregon and Indiana. Avalanche win big, 8-2 over the Senators last night. Nuggets back at home tonight in Lodo. They take on Atlanta. 24 in Parker, 23 in Boulder, 26 in Denver. And you're waking up with Jeff and Bill on a Friday. Blake Olson, News Talk 710 KNUS.
Much colder and actually going to feel a little bit like winter for a change. Temperatures are going to be down just in the mid to upper 30s today, and that happens early. Lower 20s tonight and only low 30s for highs tomorrow. A storm system coming in, a little fragmented, will produce some light snow today and tonight into Friday morning. Denver could see an inch or two. Snow will be heavier in the foothills and mountains and to the south of Denver, where the storm system will track a little bit closer. Meteorologist Don Day in the 710 KNUS Weather Center.
Headline from the Denver Post, U.S. House refuses to override Trump's veto of bill that would have helped fund Colorado water pipeline. Representative Lauren Boebert, who had sponsored the bill, pushed President in November to release Jeffrey Epstein files. Was it all related to that? What is going on? I know she worked very hard on this bill, and it passed the House and the Senate unanimously. Went to the president's desk. He rejected it, and in his veto rejection letter, said that it was due to costs. He didn't like that. So if it passed the House and the Senate unanimously, well, you just override the veto, right? Goes back. And Lauren worked on that. And then yesterday they didn't have enough votes. Republicans switched. To give us some insight on what happened and what her plans are next regarding the Arkansas Valley, I don't want to say compact, but the water project. She joins us now. Lauren Boebert. Good morning, Representative. Thank you for joining the Jeff and Bill Show.
Yes, good morning.
Good morning to both of you. And this was a lot of work to get this all the way to the Resolute desk, and it was very unfortunate to learn about the veto. And we worked very, very hard all week to, for more than a week, to ensure that we could have the votes for the veto override. And the White House worked hard too. Every confirmation of a yes we seem to get from our colleagues. I had Congressman Jeff Hurd, who this bill impacts greatly as well. I worked on it when I was in the 3rd District, and so it's certainly important to him now that he's there as well. Every colleague that would say yes would then come back and say, oh, we got a call from the White House. Sorry, we can't be with you on this one. So it wasn't a policy dispute, and really there's not even a cost dispute. It's been said that this would cost over $1 billion, and that's just not true. There's already been hundreds of millions of dollars invested in this. President Trump was the one who really took the lead on this issue. This was started in 1962 under President Kennedy, and only $24 million had been invested until 2020 when President Trump had this issue brought to his attention by Cory Gardner and Secretary Bernhardt. And they said, this is very important to Colorado. And Trump said, well, Western water infrastructure is important. So let's more than double the investments that have been made, and I'll give them $28 million. And that actually prompted Colorado to invest more than $100 million. And so all of this has been going on. More money has been invested since then. And all we were doing with this bill is extending the repayment time for water users by 25 years and reducing interest on those payments that were caused by the inflation under the previous administration.
That's Lauren Boebert. Lauren, let's talk a little bit about the Arkansas Valley Conduit. What is this? Help people like me understand. Is it a pipeline? And where's the water coming from? What is all this?
Yes, so this is a pipeline, and this is a very important pipeline that impacts several communities down in southeast Colorado. This impacts Pueblo, Otero, Bent, Kiowa, Prowers, Crowley, and Baca counties. This is something that will provide 7,500 acre-feet of water per year to as many as 50,000 Coloradans. So this pipeline is extremely important, and I'm going to continue to work to get this across the line. I said yesterday in an interview that President Trump has always said promises made, promises kept, and I completely agree with that mentality, and I am going to ensure President Trump keeps his promise to continue this Arkansas Valley water infrastructure project, and he does not go back on his word on this.
So this gets passed originally under the Kennedy administration. You mentioned $24 million was allocated towards it. Did they start this pipeline? Did it get partway there, or is this a California train boondoggle? Did it ever even get off the ground?
So it got off the ground under President Trump in 2020. Secretary Bernhardt, Secretary of the Interior David Bernhardt, also from Rifle, might I add, also with a GED, might I add, something about us. But anyway, he was at the groundbreaking in 2020 for this project after those serious investments had been made, and the entire delegation has been on board ever since in ensuring that more allocation was made. I signed on to letters of support and other projects, certain earmarks and whatnot that I supported of other colleagues in the past, like Ken Buck and Doug Lamborn. It was in the infrastructure bill that, yes, I did vote against. It's really unfortunate when you have these big, massive bills that have really great things in them, but then also really awful things in them, and you have to say, well, what's better here? But when I was able to get Finish the Arkansas Valley Conduit bill passed, I did it the right way. This was a single subject bill. I didn't jam it into another bill. But guess what? I'm going to have to do that now. Now I'm going to have to find a way to be swampy and jam this into a must-pass piece of legislation, because that is how this town works. That is how dirty things get. And that's why people go with these big omnibus and CRs and minibuses all the time, because they know that their legislation will be snuck in and they don't have any consequences afterwards. And here I finally got a bill the absolute right way, single subject, through the House, through the Senate, to the White House, and it gets vetoed. So now I have to play the swamp game and jam this into a big bill that probably doesn't have a lot of things in it that I love and isn't completely perfect.
Well, let's talk, Representative Lauren Boebert, about the president's concerns about this bill. He attaches this statement that essentially it's way too much money, that finally the buck's going to stop with him. We're no longer funding all these special projects. What's your response to that?
I don't think that President Trump has been the most fiscally responsible president. I absolutely respect him and support him. So happy that he is there. This is not something that is going to cost what his statement says it's going to cost. I'm not sure what staffer came up with that number, but even the congressional budget of office has never scored this bill. They've always said that the monetary costs on it are too insignificant to even score this bill. So that means it would be under $500,000. $500,000 is kind of their mark to say if we score or not. And so all this is reducing interest payments for rural Colorado, for counties who have overwhelmingly even supported this administration 3 times in a row now. And so we're giving them longer to repay their portion of the cost and reducing their interest. So will the government lose money on not receiving more interest? Yeah, but look what President Trump is doing to ensure that people can afford a mortgage, can get a mortgage, can buy a home. There's plenty of things that the government does to have tax credits and incentives and reduce rates so the economy can do well and people can actually live the American dream. And I would certainly hope that clean water is a part of the American dream.
Lauren Boebert represents Congressional District 4. We're talking about the pipeline bill that she had worked for years on, pulling together, and then gets vetoed by President Trump, even though he seems supportive of it early on. So, look, people are trying to figure out what happened here. You had a meeting with Pam Bondi and others in the Situation Room regarding the release of the Epstein files. It seems like you stood against the Trump administration regarding the release of those files. Is this political payback? Is this political retribution for the release of the Epstein files?
You know, Jeff, Bill, no one has come out and directly said that to me. I have asked that question very directly to some who are around the president, and it is very aggressively denied. So I understand how a lot of things work in this town, and people don't forget things. But I would hope that this is not some sort of retribution or retaliation. And if it is, well, I'm still going to work to ensure that 50,000 Coloradans get access to clean water and this project gets finished. In fact, yesterday, the House even voted on a measure that I had put in for $5 million for this project in a community a project funding request. Had nothing to do with my bill itself. It's just a community development project funding request, and $5 million was approved there, but under $500,000 wasn't approved in the initial bill. So I'm still working, and it's still receiving funding in other ways. This bill had nothing to do with funding, and we're going to make sure that it happens.
Lauren Boebert, you and Donald Trump have been close. You've worked together on many projects. You've been a strong supporter of his. We've, though, watched some relationships fracture, most notably MTG and Donald Trump. Is your relationship with Donald Trump still strong? Does he have your support? Do you support him going into your political races?
I certainly support the president, and he supports me. He has not said anything to the contrary. There haven't been any nasty Truth Social posts about me or anything like that. I think there was a very large difference with my former colleague, Marjorie Taylor Greene. She had spent most of this year attacking President Trump and the issues that he was championing. So there's a large difference here. There was one thing that I felt very passionate about in releasing the Epstein documents. There's still documents that we need to see. When reporters ask me here in D.C., I'm like, well, tell me, are you finished going through the ones that have been released first? Because when you're done with those, let me know. Then maybe I'll cause a fuss. But, we want accountability. And we want justice. We want truth. We want transparency. President Trump has always been about those things. And even during the time period of my name being on that discharge petition to force the Epstein files to be released, I wasn't the one out in the press conferences demanding that President Trump do something. It was in our authority and our control in the House. So there was nothing to demand of the administration at that time. That's what we were doing with the legislation. That's the point of signing the discharge petition. When I was in the Situation Room, I had great conversations about President Trump meeting with witnesses, about our Attorney General Pam Bondi meeting with witnesses, Kash Patel meeting with witnesses. They were all eager to. We were talking about different ways to subpoena different groups to get more information. Is it the estate? Are they giving us everything that they say that they have? Is there more that we could ask for? And, so we had a very productive conversation. It certainly wasn't a shakedown kind of meeting in the Situation Room like everyone had hoped that it would be. So anyway, to answer your question, I certainly support the president, and I have his support. I can't tell you everything that went on with this bill. I have not spoke to him directly about this one, but we're still going to get this and many, many other things across the line. Our Republican Colorado delegation, me, the two Jeffs, Crank and Hurd, and Gabe Evans all sat with Steve Scalise for about 2 hours last night. And Steve Scalise and his team, he is the majority leader, and he controls the legislation that comes to the floor. And he was working to help all of us find ways to be successful for our constituents, to deliver on the promises that we have made to them, and do so as quickly as possible and as often as possible.
That's Lauren Boebert, Congresswoman from Congressional District 4, working hard to bring clean drinking water to the eastern parts of Colorado. Because if you don't understand this, go down to the Colorado State Capitol, because at the base you have paintings all around the state capitol devoted towards water. There's an old saying in Colorado that whiskey's for drinking and water's for fighting, because it's gold here. It's really, really important. That's why you have the Colorado River Compact, all these other states. Colorado's kind of the roof where all the snow lands, and then all the water runs down to all these other states, even to Mexico. So you have all these treaties. It's so critical, it's so debated. Lauren Boebert working across the aisle, getting unanimous support to try to support her constituents, get water to them, and still facing challenges there. I do want to ask you a few more questions related to President Trump, and then we'll get into Minnesota, because you've been part of the oversight hearings. We had one of your opponents on. She's in a Democrat primary, Tricia Calaverse. She joined us live in studio. Here's my concern about if Democrats get control. What we see from Phil Weiser, from Michael Bennett, from John Hickenlooper, everything is just anti-Trump, Trump, Trump, Trump. Everything's anti-Trump. More lawsuits. We're going to fight Trump. We're going to fight Trump. And I asked Tricia this particular, if she won your seat and Democrats took control of the House, would they just impeach the president all day? Is this just going to be investigations? Is there going to be anything done for the benefit of the people? Or are you just going to, is it just political retribution time? She didn't have a good answer. Lauren Boebert, if Democrats get control of the House of Representatives, is it just going to be non-stop impeachment fest against Donald Trump?
That is the very first thing that happens. On day one, they are prepared to file articles of impeachment and start these impeachment hearings on President Trump. They are already trying in every single committee to subpoena President Trump. They want to subpoena his family, other cabinet members. And, this is what we saw in the second part of President Trump's first term when Democrats took control of the House. They went after him and his family immediately. You started seeing all of his cabinet nominations go away. They were absolutely probing them and trying their best to castrate them of all of their authority and their abilities to actually perform and deliver. And we lost a lot of good people who were in those positions, and it was just further chaos for President Trump, and that's exactly what they were trying to create. And on day one, with Hakeem Jeffries as Speaker of the House, impeachment hearings will start, and I don't care what a Democrat campaigns on, they will be on board. Democrats do not break rank. Even yesterday, I had Democrats come to me and say, hey, we're trying to whip in favor of this override, but you got a handful that are concerned that you are the sponsor, and they don't want to support it because of that. I don't know, maybe like an Ilhan Omar or an AOC, something like that, not to name names. But even they joined to veto this because they do not break ranks. They get in a room, Hakeem Jeffries, all of their leadership pressures them, and they stick together. So any Democrat that is elected, the campaign promises are gone, and they govern as Hakeem Jeffries tells them to. And who did Hakeem Jeffries learn from? Nancy Pelosi. He knows how to keep his conference in lockstep and in agreement. So it would be very unfortunate for us to lose the House. And it's something that I'm working hard to ensure that we don't. Gabe Evans is in one of the most vulnerable seats in America, and I'm working in all of the ways, either to be present or to stay the heck away from him to ensure that he gets elected again, because he's doing a fantastic job. And we have got to keep these 4 Republican seats in Colorado. I don't see us flipping a seat in Colorado anytime soon, but certainly keeping the 4 that we have should be possible.
And one of the things I love about you being in politics is how much the Democrats raise against you and then never defeat you. So Tricia Calaverse is all out there trumpeting, I got $1 million to spend. She lost to you by 10 points. Yeah. She's raised $1 million, and they're going to put a lot of that's money going against you, not against more vulnerable Republicans. So by all means, keep going at it.
I'm happy for them to spend it against me. Waste your money there. That is fine. No, we're doing great in the 4th District. I've traveled the district all the time. I had a 30-day period where I was in Lamar and surrounding areas 5 times. It was like, maybe we're not scheduling this exactly right. I'm going to Lamar 5 times in 30 days. But it's totally worth it every single time. And, we are delivering. I'm getting my community projects fundings approved. We are not going to pass a CR. That's what it looks like now anyway. We are getting our appropriations bills passed. And I have over $20 million to the 4th District coming back to critical infrastructure projects, more water projects, more infrastructure. And this is so important to our district. So I have been delivering for them, continuing to do so. Our farmers and ranchers, I talk to them every day and make personal phone calls often. And it's so nice to not have an ask for them and say, what can I do for you? After all, I am from the federal government, and I'm here to help. So I talk to our farmers and ranchers and try to come up with ways that will make their lives easier and more prosperous, get foreign adversaries out of the way, and ensure that they can keep their family farms forever. So 4th District is looking great. Impeachment would start immediately with Democrats running the House, and that's why the House is our priority. in these midterm elections.
Congresswoman Lauren Boebert, I know you're very busy, and it sounds like you're on grandma duty as well, so I'll keep it brief, but you do sit on the powerful House Oversight Committee. You have been investigating what's been happening in Minnesota, all the fraud, plus the ICE shooting. You've had a front row seat on this. Give us some insight into what's happening in Minnesota, please.
Yes, so Minnesota, unfortunately, is not the only state that is that we're seeing this mass fraud take place with federal funding. But Nick Shirley obviously did a fantastic job of uncovering this and truly ripping this wide open for all of us to begin investigating everything. And the tens of billions of dollars, it seems, is being wasted, probably more than that, in Minnesota alone is just absolutely astonishing. Seeing Governor Tim Walz indefinitely suspend his campaign to run for governor again is just an admission of guilt all the way. And we had some state representatives in my committee that we were able to question. And this is something that they have been trying to raise awareness of. One of the women were she's a chair of a fraud prevention committee. They made a committee for fraud prevention, and we're reporting to the governor and to the AG, and nothing was being done. So now the federal government is involved. We are going to take accountability. They're already freezing some of the programs that are going out. I hope that is not long-lived, because we want to find the fraud quickly and get help to those who need it immediately. And so there's a lot there, but now you're seeing the summer of love all over again. Here we are, not even a full 6 years later, and Minneapolis looks exactly, or almost exactly, like it did in 2020 when they were burning their own city down. And it's very unfortunate that this kind of manipulation and propaganda and influence causes people to react this way, to think that they can run over federal police officers, to think that they can not protest peacefully, but in complete chaos and anarchy. I've been at 2A rallies in Virginia in the past where we had over 25,000 people, maybe over 50,000 people. There was no violence. Everyone was peaceful, picking up trash together. I've been at Trump rallies where the same, where there was no violence. And in Colorado, we've had the same. And unfortunately, they are being incentivized and told to act irrationally and cause a scene so that there will be an altercation that the media can tell a story about and point to.
Did you think the shooting of Renee Cole Good was justified?
From every angle that I have seen, and I'm not a prosecutor, but every angle that I have seen, this seems absolutely justified. You see the officer, he's not in front of her car. When she backs up, then she starts to turn and go forward. Her tires are pointed at the officer. You see her front tires just peel out on the ice. So this officer is hearing her engine rev up before it even accelerates toward him. And at that point, when she starts to go forward, she has positioned her vehicle right at him. And I do believe that this was self-defense and it was justified. And it's very, very unfortunate that these left-wing propagandists have convinced people that they can behave in this type of manner to impede law enforcement investigations and not just peacefully protest. I've seen other videos where people are trying to video and ICE officers, they say, you're more than welcome to record, but I need you to be right over here. You're too close right here. Go over here. You're more than welcome to record us and make sure we're doing this right. But to actually interfere and get in the middle of it, that is illegal, and it's very, very dangerous for everyone involved.
Now, the question I've got, Representative Boebert, on the timeline is, when we have the ICE agent in front of the car, if you're talking about the idea that he's standing there and he hears the engine rev, the directive from Homeland Security is that use of force can only be deemed reasonable if there is not a safe and feasible alternative that appears at the time. If the officer is standing there and hears the engine rev, why can't he step outside of the path of the vehicle?
I think when you describe what happened, it sounds a lot slower than it really was. This all happens in a second or two. And so there really is not that much time. But, I mean, in the video, you see the tires spin out, and the officer does go to the side and was not fully out of the way in that short amount of time that took place and was struck by the vehicle. So he did attempt to move out, and in the process of it, he did open fire, and that vehicle was turned into a deadly weapon.
Yeah, see, but the issue that I've got with it is that as soon as the officer places himself in front of the vehicle, we can't then turn around in my mind and say the driver was aiming to hit the ICE agents. The ICE agents place themselves in front of the car. That's the issue that I've got with it.
Bill, I hear you. I don't see the officer directly in front of the vehicle because she was backing up when you see him go to the right of the vehicle, to the passenger side of the vehicle. She is backing up. The officer doesn't, I would assume, does not think that he is in harm's way as she is reversing her vehicle, but then suddenly puts it in drive, turns the tires toward him. Now he is moving the other way to get out of the way, and has this 3,000 to 4,000 pound weapon headed his way. Again, I'm not a prosecutor, but from what I see, and we will see the details of this come out. I'm sure we will see more footage. We're seeing more every day. I think that this was justified and self-defense. Extremely unfortunate. No one wants anyone to be harmed or certainly to pass away. And this is something that it's been said that she was involved in for quite some time, in impeding in these investigations and getting involved and in the middle of them. And it's unfortunate that you don't hear the Democrats say, hey, guys, can we tone it down a little? Can we not get in the faces of armed police officers? Can we not use our vehicles as deadly weapons? Can we stand on the side and peacefully protest? And instead you hear them say to get more excited in these demonstrations rather than de-escalation.
Congresswoman Lauren Boebert, she represents Colorado's 4th Congressional District, working hard to bring water via the Arkansas Valley Conduit, working hard to hold Minnesota accountable on the House Oversight Committee. You've been very generous with your time today. Thank you so much, Congresswoman.
Yeah, thanks a lot.
Thank you both. Talk to you soon.
All right. What did you think of her responses? What do you think of what President Trump did on the Arkansas Valley Conduit? Was it political retribution, or was it a proper fiscal analysis?
Yeah. And as Lauren was outlining, and I appreciate the analysis, what I can't understand is the same question she's got is how come first term, etc., this was a good idea from Trump, and now bad idea? What's changed? It doesn't mean that new information could come to light. It means the new information could be there. It could come to light. He could have a change of heart. He could have other discussions. He easily could change his mind, but we don't have any of that information. All we know is that originally supporter, now he's not a supporter. And without some of that guidance, what's Lauren supposed to do? How does she get information from the White House and they say, if it didn't do X, Y, or Z, we'd be in support of this. You come back with a bill that doesn't do this, I'm fine with it. But she has none of those directives. She just has a big no. So what is she supposed to do? She has to go get swampy.
That was the lie.
I love that line.
I got to go get swampy. But she's going to do what she has to do to deliver for your constituents.
Okay.
I mean, she's constituent first.
Here's the thing is, now,
she went against Trump on the Epstein files based upon her constituents and wanting to serve her constituents. She went against them on this thing. So
Now,
do you give her credit for being independent? She's not just a
that's the thing for
Trump
me. Yeah. On this, that's the thing
Accolade.
that I come with this is that regardless of your political opinions on her, by and large, the idea that she's going to try to go to the mat and do what you can to get this across the line, got to give her some credit for that. You can agree or disagree with the project, but the fact that she's like, this is going to provide water for 50,000 Southern Colorado residents is important to her, especially those in her district, and she's going to go do what she needs to be done, which is get all swampy. So I appreciate that level of fighting for your constituents, whether or not I agree or disagree with you on the politics. I agree that that is a fantastic level of commitment from any sort of elected official. It's
All
wonderful.
right, join the conversation. Billy saying Lauren Boebert is wonderful. You're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show.
Sometimes I hate you. You're the best. This is Denver's Talk Leader, News Talk 710 KNUS.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. Wrapping up a great conversation with Congresswoman Lauren Boebert, giving us insight onto Trump's veto of her water bill. She worked very hard on. Was it political retribution for the Epstein files, a smart fiscal decision? Fascinating insight. Would love to hear from you. She's also part of the House Oversight Committee, which is looking into all the fraud in Minnesota, plus the shooting, calling the shooting in Minnesota justified. Let's go to the phone lines. Tony Littleton. Good morning, Tony. You're on with Jeff and Bill.
Morning.
Hey, good morning, guys. I don't really have an opinion as to whether he's guilty or not. There are a few facts that I've heard that are concerning. One of the videos that we're all seeing was shot by a gal who was very close enough that she could hear the conversation from the ICE agent's side. She couldn't necessarily hear what the gal inside the car was saying, but she heard them tell her. One said, "Get out of the car," and another one said, "Move the car." So there, in that heat of the moment, there seems to be, there were two different instructions. The second issue, the ICE agent may have indeed considered himself threatened when he was in front of that car, and that shot that he put through the windshield may indeed be self-defense. But when that car turned and he was on the side of the car, and he put two more shots into her straight through her window, the side window, that is probably would be considered a fleeing vehicle, and that's against the law. That would be against the law. The third concern is everybody from Trump down is saying he's innocent, and so the federal investigation, I don't think we have to guess which way they're going to rule. He's innocent. These cases are normally handled by local police. They normally are the ones to investigate this, and they are not being allowed to investigate it at all. They are being kept out. They cannot investigate, and Minneapolis is upset about that because that's their role. And I, as a citizen, would feel a lot better if they let the Minneapolis Police Department and detectives and whoever does that do this investigation as well to make that judgment. Was the first shot
Tony,
legitimate?
Look, and I appreciate the call. We're up against a break here. Look, we're analyzing tire directions and moments and split seconds and first shot versus second shot versus third shot. She should have never been there. Bottom line, she should have never been there. This was not a peaceful protest on the side of a street. She was actively interfering with a lawful ICE operation, and I'm sorry she died, okay? But we're going to spend the next, 3-4 months as a nation nitpicking tire pointing directions? She should have never been there.
Isn't that important, though? The direction of the tire, whether or not he's in danger, and the idea of the claims that...
No, because you guys are trying to justify that it was a murderous shot. She should have never been there. She should have never been there. We're diving into all this detail.
But I worry about the idea that she should never have been there being a justification. Because
I'm not saying it's a justification.
Well, it seems to be a justification.
I'm pointing out what we're going to do as a nation. We're going to sit here and go, well, one shot versus two shots versus three shots and the points of the tire and was she backing up and then pulling forward and all that stuff. She should have just never been there. Don't put yourself. Here's the moral lesson of the day. Don't go and interrupt lawful federal operations. Don't go do it.
Yeah,
you're going to live. You're going to have a much better weekend.
I understand that idea, but remember that is also the message that you have coming out of countries like Iran. I'm sorry all those protesters were shot. You shouldn't have gone to the protest in the first place.
They're not just protesting, Bill. They're not on the side of the street protesting.
But hang on a sec.
They're putting their cars in front of law enforcement.
Yeah, but other cars were able to drive around at the time. And the description we heard from the administration was completely and totally wrong based on what happened. And I think Tony, and I appreciate the call, Tony, has a point where the second and third shots occur when the officer is standing to the side of the vehicle. If the issue is, well, hang on a sec. If the issue is that she's trying to assault him with a deadly weapon when he's no longer in front of the vehicle, where's the assault? Where's the danger at that point?
Again, you guys are just going to go back to peeling this back, nitpicking every possible detail to try to make that ICE officer a murderer instead of recognizing the giant forest from the trees that she should have never been there in the first place. And this is the message to everybody. Don't interfere with these operations. If you don't like them, sue. If you don't like them, protest. Don't put your car there. All right, you're listening to The Jeff and Bill Show.
This is Denver's Talk Leader, News Talk 710, KNUS.
This Minnesota shooting, my goodness, has split the text messages completely in half.
This is crazy.
From
nice.
people saying she's a domestic terrorist, period, to saying it was murder. Some people even saying conservatives are celebrating her murder. I don't think people are celebrating her murder. But my goodness, look, it's getting hot out there. New York City, chance last night, Kristi Noem will hang, save a life, kill ICE. Is it going to get worse over the weekend, do you think, Bill?
Ooh, I don't know. The thing for me is what are the confrontations going to be like at the protests? How aggressive are the protesters, and what is the response going to be? Because we've seen it before. I'm hoping no, just because of the fallout of the George Floyd.
All right, join the conversation. We'll continue into the next hour. Plus, Southern Colorado dedicating its first mosque. What is going on down in El Paso County? You're listening to The Jeff and Bill Show.
This is 710 KNUS. We'll be right back.